right, so we're diving into these Bitcoin predictions for 2025. Specifically, will it hit $250,000 by the end of the year? And, this is a really interesting time to be looking at this because Bitcoin has been on this crazy ride.
Yeah.
Just this past January, it hit an all-time high of almost $110,000. And now it's kind of cooled down a little bit. It's hovering around $80,000. Mm-hmm. So is this just a little blip before it takes off, or are we seeing the start of a downturn?
Well, even with this pullback, some big names are still saying it's going to hit $250,000. We're talking about Tim Draper, the venture capitalist who's been right about Bitcoin before.
Yeah, he called $10,000 Bitcoin years ago.
Exactly. And Arthur Hayes, the crypto trader and co-founder of BitMEX.
Yeah, Draper has been predicting $250,000 Bitcoin since way back in 2014. But it's not just about the price for him, right?
Right.
He's talking about a complete, paradigm shift.
Yeah, he's basically saying Bitcoin is going to be the main currency.
Like the dominant currency.
Yeah, full stop.
Wow.
You'll use it for everything. Groceries, rent, taxes. You won't even need dollars anymore.
Really? I mean, it's interesting when you think about the way he compares Bitcoin to the dollar. He says it's like measuring the value of a dozen eggs against a currency that's constantly being devalued.
That's a good analogy. What do you think about that?
I mean, it makes you think about how we view money, right?
Right.
Like a dozen eggs will always have a certain value no matter what happens to the dollar.
Exactly. He's challenging our whole understanding of money. But is this shift really going to happen?
Well, Arthur Hayes seems to think so, and he actually thinks this dip is a positive thing. He calls it a cleansing of the market, getting rid of what he calls deadwood, which are basically all the risky bets and unstable cryptocurrencies.
I don't know about this cleansing idea. Does that just mean a lot of people are losing money? Is that really a good thing for Bitcoin in the long run?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's easy to talk about clearing out the deadwood when it's not your money.
Right. And who actually benefits from these big swings in the market?
Yeah, good question.
But anyway, Hayes does agree with Draper on that $250,000 prediction, and he has his own reason why he thinks it's going to happen.
Okay, what's that?
He thinks governments are going to print a ton of money to try and fix the economy, and that's going to make Bitcoin and other digital assets way more valuable.
Oh, wow. So his advice is to survive the stress and profit from the response.
Yeah. What do you think he means by surviving the stress?
I mean, it sounds like he's saying this is going to be a wild ride.
Right, like riding out the volatility of the market. Maybe there's even a deeper meaning there.
Yeah, it makes you realize that crypto isn't for the faint of heart.
Definitely not, especially when the economy might be in trouble.
And speaking of trouble, there are rumors that Russia is quietly buying more Bitcoin even with this dip.
Yeah, it seems like some countries are making strategic moves with crypto, no matter what the price is doing.
Interesting. So maybe they're worried about traditional currencies losing value, or maybe they see Bitcoin as a way to make international transactions.
It's something to watch for sure.
And then there's this wild speculation about the Trump White House buying Bitcoin. Can you imagine?
That would be a huge story.
Right. Talk about an endorsement for Bitcoin.
It's just speculation for now, but it raises a big question. What would happen if a major government really got involved in the Bitcoin market?
Yeah. Would it make Bitcoin more legitimate and mainstream, or would it lead to more regulation and government control?
It's hard to say.
And to add to all of this, Arthur Hayes thinks the Federal Reserve is about to step in and try to stabilize markets.
And he says that's actually going to cause Bitcoin to boom.
Wait, how does that work?
Well, he says historically this kind of intervention makes the dollar weaker. And as the dollar's value goes down, alternatives like Bitcoin start to look more appealing.
So basically he's saying the attempts to calm things down might actually make the crypto market even crazier.
Exactly, and that just shows how unpredictable all of this is.
So we've talked about these huge price predictions and some pretty radical ideas about what money could become. But let's get down to brass tacks here. If Bitcoin's really going to be this dominant currency, the way we exchange value every day, what are the things it needs to overcome?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? We're talking about these astronomical prices, but what about the real world? Can Bitcoin actually work as a currency for everyday transactions? There are some serious challenges.
Like what?
Well, volatility is a big one. Imagine trying to run a business where your prices are constantly changing because Bitcoin's value is going up and down. How do you even set prices? How do you manage inventory? It's just a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, even with this dip we're seeing now, Bitcoin can be pretty dramatic.
Exactly. And, people like Draper say Bitcoin will stabilize as more people use it, but that's a big if. We need to see that Bitcoin can actually hold its value before it can be a real currency for everyday use.
Draper does say that Bitcoin's fixed supply makes it more stable than fiat currencies, which are always being printed.
Right. But Bitcoin's value is still mostly based on speculation and how people feel about it. Until people are actually using Bitcoin for real things, that volatility is probably going to stick around.
So volatility is one hurdle. What else?
Scalability is another big one. Can the Bitcoin network actually handle everyone using it for all their purchases? I mean, right now it's not exactly known for being fast or cheap.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
If I have to wait an hour for my coffee to go through and pay a huge fee on top of that,
Yeah,
it kind of defeats the purpose.
exactly. Those are real problems that need to be solved. But, there are people working on this stuff, like you mentioned the Lightning Network earlier. That's supposed to make Bitcoin transactions faster and cheaper.
So it's like a separate layer that makes things move faster.
Exactly. Transactions can bypass the main network and go through much quicker, and if that kind of stuff works, it could really help Bitcoin become more practical for everyday use.
But even if we fix the technical stuff, don't we still need businesses to actually accept Bitcoin? It doesn't seem like most places take it yet.
Absolutely. You need businesses to adopt it if Bitcoin's going to be a global currency. And that means figuring out the volatility, the fees, and making it easy for people to use.
So it's like this chicken and egg thing.
Yeah.
Businesses need to see people using Bitcoin, but people need places to spend it.
Exactly. And to break out of that, we need better technology, more demand from people and businesses actually accepting it.
It's starting to seem like getting to that $250,000 price might be easier than making Bitcoin a mainstream currency.
I think you're right. And even if Bitcoin doesn't become like the one global currency, it could still change things. We're already seeing it impact things like international payments and even just the way we think about money itself.
Yeah, that's a good point. This whole conversation about Bitcoin makes us really think about what money and value actually are.
Absolutely. Whether you believe in Bitcoin or not, it's definitely shaking things up.
It's like we're on the edge of something brand new. We don't know what's going to happen, but it's exciting to be a part of it.
It really is. So as we go into the last part of this deep dive, let's switch gears from the practical stuff to the bigger picture. What would a world where Bitcoin is the main currency actually look like?
Yeah, let's get philosophical. What are the good things and the bad things that could happen if the global financial system changed so much? I mean, it's kind of mind-blowing to think about like what a world where Bitcoin is the main currency would actually look like. Like, on the one hand, it could be this amazing utopia where everyone has control over their own money, like true financial freedom.
Yeah.
But then there's that other side of me that wonders about, what could go wrong.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? People who really believe in Bitcoin, they talk about this decentralized future where the power shifts away from like big banks and governments and goes back to the people. But could that actually create new problems, like new kinds of control and inequality?
Yeah, that's what I worry about. Like, what if this Bitcoin revolution just ends up making the same power structures even stronger?
That's a good point. One of the biggest criticisms of Bitcoin is that it's mostly owned by a pretty small group of people who got in early. And a lot of them are already rich and know a lot about technology. So if Bitcoin really does become the main currency, will it just make the gap between the rich and the poor even bigger?
And what happens to governments? If they can't control money anymore, what happens to their ability to regulate things, provide social safety nets, and keep the economy stable?
Yeah, those are really important questions. A truly decentralized financial system could make the world more fair and transparent. But it could also create new problems and risks. Like we could see a lot more volatility, new types of scams, and even huge cyber attacks.
It's like we're at this fork in the road with two very different paths. One leads to a future that's more decentralized and maybe more fair, and the other leads to a world where the same people are in control, just with different names.
And the decisions we make now are going to determine which path we end up on. And that's where you, the listener, come in. It's time to stop just watching these trends and start actually doing something.
You're right. This isn't just some theoretical discussion. This is about the future of money. It's going to affect all of us.
So what kind of financial future do you want? For yourself? For the world? Do you think Bitcoin can really change the global economy for the better? Or is it a dangerous experiment that could have terrible consequences?
I mean, these aren't easy questions, and there are no easy answers.
Right.
But if you learn about this stuff, stay informed, and participate in these conversations, you can help shape what happens.
Exactly. The future of finance is being decided right now, and your opinion matters.
So to everyone listening, don't just sit back and watch. Do your own research, question everything, and keep asking questions.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this got you thinking about the future of money. And remember, the best investment you can make is in your own knowledge.
That's right. Thanks for listening, everyone.